This is the Best or Worst Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Koji Stephen Sakai and M. Martin Mapoma.
All righty, welcome. This is Koji.
And this is Martin.
And this is the Best or Worst Podcast. We're back for episode 92, the second half of the episode. I'm not going to read the description this time because we know what it's about. We're here to ask our guests the best or worst moment. So why don't we get into it? Martin, What do you think? Do you think we want to hear Ed's best or worst moment?
You know, I love Ed, such a cool dude. I want to hear his best.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Let's hear Ed. So we want to hear your best moment, and make sure it's not a moment that's like you met your wife, because we all know that's your best moment.
That's awesome. Or having your kid.
Yeah,
you know?
Obviously that's the best moment. But
that was terrifying. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Well, if there's a moment that you think back that really affected you to this day, it's something that really works. Do you have any?
Something that really resonates.
I think there's been so much abject failure that the triumphs really do stand out, even if they're small. Failure? Yeah, of course, man. I was an entrepreneur. I'm a musician. There's some rejection there,
What?
And there's some day jobs. But in terms of best moments, there are definitely some things that stand out for sure, outside of those sort of, like you said, the family stuff that really, drives your core of your existence. But one of there was a series of best moments that I'll share with you that happened. I started a company in 2007 that was a digital music technology company. And the elevator pitch of the company is you go to a concert and you walk out with it in your pocket. We're going to deliver a recording of what you just heard immediately, which is the Coheed and Cambria flash drive that I gave you, Martin, was one of those shows. And, with any startup, it was fraught with like, how are we going to get the money? Is this going to work? Does the technology actually work? And being a guitar player, I'm suddenly programming computers and helping design hardware, or at least working with, electrical engineers to design hardware, so that when at the end of a concert, at the push of a button, we could make thousands of copies, audio copies, within minutes. And so I did some research, and at the time, Live Nation actually had a service where they were selling CD recordings. This is mid-2000s, CD recordings of concerts. But after the show, you had to wait around for 45 minutes or an hour. And I don't know if you've ever left a concert before. You want to get out, right? You want to go home. So we needed to make it immediately available. So I had the prototype. We were ready to try this thing out. And I somehow, through serendipity and relationships, ended up on the road with Willie Nelson, who was my dad's favorite singer as I was a child. And I was a huge personal fan.
Wow.
And so we started the tour in Thunder Bay, Ontario. So I flew up there, and I had my road cases of gear and my computers and microphones, and I was nervous. It kind of worked when we tested it, but what if it didn't work now when I'm actually charging people money for that?
Yeah.
So we were at a hockey rink. It was Thunder Bay, Ontario. We're at a hockey rink, and we get set up, and they do the sound check. Everything seems cool. And I went to catering, and of course it was barbecue, because every Willie show is barbecue, no matter what city you're in. And in walks B. Spears, who's his bass player. And I'm not starstruck so much, but I'm like, that's Willie Nelson's bass player. And he was the warmest, nicest guy. He's like, hey man, who are you? And we went and sat and had dinner, and then he got on stage and played with Willie Nelson. We did the show. Everything worked perfectly. We packed it up, got on the bus, and headed for the next show, which was in Winnipeg, or somewhere cold in Canada. And the next day, somebody the tour manager, I guess, or somebody sent us a message and knocked on the door and said like, hey, Willie wants to see you guys. So me and the guy I was working with went on Willie's tour bus, and he welcomed us in, and we sat in the lounge, and he said, well, I want to listen to what you did last night. And I thought, holy crap.
Whoa.
I hope this is okay. So so Willie lights up a giant joint, right? And pushes play. And we get about 15 minutes into it, and he goes, boys, this sounds really good. And I thought, this might be the best moment of my life.
Wow.
And we kept listening, and this is, you know, right before a show, like we're going to go out an hour and a half later and do it again. And so we're listening, and then Willie's lawyer calls, and he puts the joint out. Yeah, what's up? So he's doing deals selling biodiesel to the Barenaked Ladies, right? Because they're on tour somewhere in Kansas, and they need diesel for their bus. And I'm like, what is going on? Like,
Really?
I'm in Winnipeg. Willie's doing deals, smoking a joint, and listening to a recording I made of his show last night.
Oh
This is
my
amazing.
God.
And then the worst moment happened.
Oh no. Okay.
It doubles up on you. Oh, go ahead. Oh man.
He passed me the joint, and I said no, because I had to work.
You refused to smoke a joint with Willie Nelson? With
Yeah.
Willie Nelson?
Yes. Yes.
Why? Did,
Oh.
why?
So I was still nervous, right? This is
Yeah.
this. I just started this company. I want it to go right. It's going really good so far. The first day.
Hold on. Just to be clear on this is 2007, right?
2007. Yeah.
So you're a grown man already.
Oh yeah. I was like,
Oh, that's the best, Ed. Wow.
yeah, right. So we listened to the rest of the show. He was tour manager. They're passing joints back and forth. And
But
I'm
not you.
thinking, well, here's the thing. So I'm thinking, I know at this point that if I'm stoned, I can't hear right. I'm an audio engineer, and I know that it will either sound amazing or unbelievably bad, but I don't really know what it sounds like because I'm fucking high. So I told him no. So an hour and a half later, we're like, okay, time to go do the show. The bus door opens, and I step outside, and I realize that I am so fucking stoned from sitting in this little room with Willie Nelson for 2 hours that I've said no and still can't function, right?
Oh, that's the best.
So we go to another hockey rink in Winnipeg, and the show starts, the Texas flag drops, and I push record, and I looked at the guy that I was working with, and I was like, I don't know, man. I hope it works. It worked.
Wow.
It sounded great.
Oh, it sounded great though. Okay, good. Okay.
You know, I was so worried that this could be professional. Didn't do the thing that made the most sense in life, and I have huge regrets telling Willie Nelson, no, I don't want to hit.
What did you learn from the experience in terms of the positive side? I mean, what do you take from that moment of like the triumph now?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question, because I think that in retrospect, the thing that you know is that if you know what you're doing, you're good at what you're doing, you do it. And when life presents you with an opportunity, maybe just for a great story, let alone for a great experience, you say yes, and you do it. And you know, I still have a great story because I said no, which is so dumb, but really the right thing to do would have been like, I just smoked a joint with Willie Nelson, and I'm going to go record his fucking concert, and it's going to be amazing. Instead, I was scared.
No, you know what? I get it too, Ed. But you know what? I don't think you're the only person who would be that way in that situation, because
No, it's
I get it, dude. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but
no.
Oh man, I can see where you're coming from, because it's like, okay, it's like, because in my head I've been thinking, I've been given this awesome opportunity, and I really want to smoke that joint, but if I fuck this up for some reason and it comes back on me smoking that joint, I'd never let myself. I'd regret it. On the other hand, I'd regret it because I would, now this is just me thinking. I would think, was it just a test to see if I was going to be professional and knowing what was coming up, or is it just to have fun? So I think you handled it great. The fact that you were still stoned is hilarious.
right. So I got the best and worst of both worlds.
But it's Willie Nelson too, dude. I mean,
I know, but it sucks. It sucks to be responsible, right?
Oh, it does. It does.
That's the way to being responsible, at least in that moment.
That's Koji's middle name, responsible.
But like I said, the thing I learned is you can be responsible and still take hold of these remarkable moments and enjoy them. And and to your point, I've been in other situations where it's kind of like the undercover cop and they're like, hey man, take a hit. We're going to like see if you're real or if you're a narc, where it's a test. Yeah. This was not a test. This was a like, hey man, this is what we do here. Like, come on, join in. It wasn't a let's see if this guy can hang. It was
he probably smokes like the best, the best, like, Yeah, just to make you feel worse.
Here's the thing: is if you're in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and you're looking for weed, you're probably not finding what Willie finds, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So anyway, I don't know. So I don't know if that counts. I don't know if I broke the show rules by having best and worst simultaneously.
No, those are actually great stories. It's people sometimes do mold them together because sometimes there's a high and there's a low to to these stories.
There was a high.
Yeah, there was definitely. I don't see any bad points to it either, though. Besides not smoking with him, because technically you still smoked with him.
Yeah. And why don't you tell us how people can follow you? How can people get to know? Are you on socials? Are you?
I am, but I'll warn you that my social media tends to be just a bunch of political activism, not necessarily fun and games and
which is
professional stuff. So on Twitter, I'm at Adera, ADERRA. And then on Facebook, for Koji For You, I run the 9-10-30 Facebook group.
I see you all the time on there.
Yeah. And
wait, what?
It's private, dude. It's a South Pass thing.
The South Pasadena group. Yeah.
And then
I have to join it.
You can.
Yeah, I can. I use my brother's address.
You might know a guy. I
might know a guy, Koji. Okay.
But those are good places to find me. On Instagram is Ed_Donnelly, that's probably the more innocuous stuff. I share a lot of the projects I'm working on, or just scenes from the studio. We're in the recording studio and that sort of thing.
Like the other one the other day was really cool of your sound table. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. So I was at I worked on a project on Thursday it was in the studio where they mixed Nirvana unplugged. Like it's one of the best studios in the world.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. That picture was nuts.
Yeah, and just sitting there and working there is great. So I've been over to that studio a bunch of times in the past year, and they've various rooms, and like one of them is where the Beach Boys recorded Pet Sounds, and one of them is where Whitney recorded I Was Always Love You, and you just Slayer did stuff there, and you're just kind of like sitting in history.
Yeah.
And I was working on a TV commercial. It wasn't even anything. I mean, it wasn't anything like super artistic. It was just a great gig.
Right.
Wow.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you. And for everybody who didn't get all of that, we'll put it in the show notes below, so you guys can always get all that information. You can follow Ed, and like I said, I follow you on social because I see all your posts on the website.
So wait a minute. So when I scheduled Ed, do you know exactly who I was talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder you didn't ask me any more questions.
Well, because also I only know Ed from his work in our home city, which is my home city. So
what? That's one of the reasons why Ed is just cool. I know it's just especially you talk about the innocuous political stuff. I have to say this: your patience with some of those people on there is honestly astonishing sometimes. I mean, there's guys on there that I'm thinking to myself, this guy is Facebook tough, but in person, there is no way they would say that.
No.
Also, especially all the little like crazy South Pasadena stuff that happens, where it's just like people are so some of the comments and some of the things that happen in South Pass is just ridiculous. It's like small town politics in Southern California, which is really weird sometimes, but it's like super small town stuff that you have to deal with. And I'm always like, oh my God, I can't even look at this fight that's going on because it's just crazy, right?
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the important thing is that no matter how sort of out of bounds people might seem, is that there are neighbors and there are friends, and if there's a way to bring them back into the community or to embrace them to be productive, then we should do it. And that's where that patience comes from. It's not always easy.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's important. These folks are our neighbors, and our kids go to school with them, and we need to find a way to talk to each other.
Yeah.
That is past what they're seeing on Fox News or even crazier.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. I knew this was going to be a great one, and I'm so glad I had the chance to get you on it. I'm sorry for the early beginning, but we ended up real strong. Ended up strong. We got the message out there, and it's crazy. How was your? I wanted to ask you, how was your piano, by the way?
Playing?
Playing.
It kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the first interview, is that it's limited. One of the things that I, as a recording engineer, I always tell piano players, like, hey, lay off the left hand because they're playing all these low notes, but I've got a great bass player. Like, you're kind of getting in the way. So when I attack the piano, and I kind of think of it as attacking the piano, is I really take it from really with a strong right-handed approach and light on the left hand, because my left hand just isn't as agile because I'm right-handed, and I haven't had years of piano training. So a lot of times, if you come see a show, you'll see me a lot of times, this hand is just sitting on my lap. I'm playing with my right hand.
Oh, wow.
But then if you watch Ray Manzarek from The Doors, I keep, he's not my ultimate keyboard hero, but he certainly was an inspiration. He's mostly playing with his right hand because they didn't have a bass player. So he's playing a separate synthesizer with his left hand, just playing the bass part. This hand's doing all the work. So all that like Doors stuff that you hear, those crazy solos and everything, that's just his right hand. His left hand was almost useless because he had to hold down the bass part.
Wow.
And
I have one last, go ahead.
So I'm not a great piano player, but I can fake a few things pretty well.
I know that faking is probably 10 times better than both you and me, Koji. I have one last question for you, though. Your top 5 musicians of all time.
Ooh.
Top 5.
Okay. This changes often.
Okay. Besides Eric B. and Rakim, of course.
Come on, man. The world changed with Rakim. Okay.
Koji, I'm waiting. Oh, come on, man. There you go. Koji and I have this ongoing thing between who's a better rapper, Tupac or
but that's because
Rakim.
But Koji's from Kenya, and so is Tupac, and that's why they have that relationship.
Yeah, we relate.
Top 5, I'm not sure, but Chris Thile, who is a mandolin player, he was in Nickel Creek, and actually Nickel Creek is him and his siblings. They're doing a live stream this week. They're doing their first record, so it's guitars, mandolins, and 3-part harmony.
Oh, wow.
If you go to YouTube, and his last name is spelled Thile, Chris Thile. He's now the host of what used to be what was the PBS news from Lake Wobegon, Prairie Home Companion.
Oh yeah.
He was a guest host of that. Now he's got a new show that's sort of the replacement for that called Live From Here, where he plays with a lot of guest musicians. But if you Google Chris Thile Bach, B-A-C-H, so his last name Thile, Bach, he plays a Bach partita on the mandolin solo. It's about a 12-minute piece, and it will blow your mind. The next guy that comes to mind right away is Jake Shimabukuro, who is a ukulele player from Hawaii. But
you know him, Eddie?
Yeah, he's a famous ukulele player. He's one of the most famous ukulele players in the world.
Yeah, so he was a client, and we brought him to Marengo to do a show.
Oh, really? Okay.
And he chastised me for saying ukulele, not ukulele.
Yeah, ukulele, yeah, exactly.
So those two guys right away, I think of, not not front of mind for most people, but in terms of what they're doing with those small limited instruments is really mind blowing. And then you get into, you know, is Keith Richards the ultimate rock and roll cockroach? And can he be defeated?
Can he die?
No,
I don't think it's possible.
No, and he's not a virtuoso. He's, you know, his fingers barely move, and as he's gotten arthritic and older, they move less. But nonetheless, he has provided a cornerstone of rock and roll and blues music for that, you know, for 60 years now that will last for another 60.
Yeah.
And so, in terms of being a sort of, again, passing down the tribal knowledge, I think what he's doing is not necessarily about musicianship, but it is about history, and it's really important. And he's done it with a sort of, you know, a style that makes him memorable outside of the notes of the music.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of songwriting, Jason Isbell is a real strong young guy. He was in the Drive-By Truckers. He was their guitar player, wrote a few songs, and got kicked out of the band for partying too much, got sober, and wrote one of the best albums of all time in 2012 called Southeastern. And he has a song called Elephant that will break your heart. Absolutely talented songwriter, very poetic, very smart guy.
What's his name?
But Jason Isbell, Isbell. Yeah.
Okay.
And on top of it, phenomenal guitar player. Just one of the great slide guitar players of our generation.
Wow.
So that's 4 guys. I need to come up with a 5th.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with Tina Weymouth from the Talking Heads. Absolutely underrated. But if you listen to those Talking Head songs, they kind of, if you listen to each individual part, none of them make any sense.
Yeah.
Except in relation to the bass part. So they're all playing all these weird little parts, but there's this groove that she just laid down and put through there that, you know, nobody goes like, who are the great bass players of all time? Oh, Tina from the Talking Heads. But if you want to talk about somebody who was able to coalesce all of that world music, funk, post-punk stuff, and the reason it grooves and drives forward is just because she's just sitting there just laying it down, and it's solid.
Wow.
So a weird list.
That's actually, wow. Keith Richards was the only one that I immediately recognized on there.
Oh,
But but you know, it's funny because that's the list that I have to look at now, because that's a musician's list. And you know, any musicians out there that listen to the show, I'm sure you guys are gonna to agree with Ed, or you gonna have any if you're gonna have anyone else you want to write in there and let us know, please.
I'll add one more, and this one may be controversial.
Yanni?
Brad Paisley.
I know that name.
Country star, and his songs are kind of corny and pop country, but his guitar playing is mind-blowing. He's one of the best living guitar players, and I think he's overlooked because a lot of it is just like a ripping solo in the middle of sort of a pop country song.
Yeah.
But if you really listen to what the guy's playing, wow, is it sophisticated and is it good?
You like country, huh?
Oh yeah, I do.
Wow, that's cool.
Well, I don't know.
No.
I don't know if it's cool.
Well, yeah, okay. I guess that's my way of saying. That's my way of saying interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, because
But listen, for the last week, we've been binging on a series called Hip Hop Evolution on Netflix.
Yeah,
I know.
I love that.
Oh man, it's so good. It's so good.
Well, that's cool. All right, Ed.
All right, guys.
We're out of time. We could talk to you for a lot longer, but this has been so much fun.
Cool.
We have got to go. So, folks, this will be coming out soon. I'm going to turn it over to Koji because he hasn't talked enough yet today.
Rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast, guys. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And thank you, Ed, and thank you, Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Ed, so much for coming on. This has been
We appreciate it.
It was fun.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Later.